All right, Nicholle, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Got a lot of insight today about New Orleans 70.3. No, it's like about that. How about Waco? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I'm excited.
we brought you on here because you've done this race a few times, and of course, you live in Texas, and you evidently have contacts with the race director as well.
Yeah, so I've done the race 3 times. I went back and looked, and I'm doing it this year. So this will be my 4th time of doing the race. It's like a 3-hour drive for me. And it's an easy drive. So it just makes sense of doing the race. It's a good time of year. So yeah, familiar with the course and the setup. So excited to get into it.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I've been starting with everybody, about kind of how the setup is around it's downtown race, right? I mean, the transition, everything, is it kind of downtown in Waco?
Yeah, they call Athlete Village, like if you're Google mapping it, you Google map Indian Spring Park. And so it's right by the river. There's a few bridges there, but that's where Athlete Village is, and that's where the finish is. So yeah, it's downtown Waco. If you haven't been there lately, or it's cute, it's changing a lot. So every time I go, there's new restaurants, new hotels, road construction. Baylor is right there, huge university. And so they're doing, I think they have some new buildings going up. So yeah, it's a cute area. It's a nice area. In terms of like getting to Athlete Village, there's lots of parking. So I always feel like as an athlete, I kind of want to know if I can park and walk everywhere. And it's definitely a setup where you can park and walk to Athlete Village, easily check in. I usually park, go check in, get all the stuff they give you, walk it back to the car, drop it off, grab my bike, and then I walk and drop off my bike at bike drop off. So that's like how I efficiently sort of manage it. And the way it's laid out is very easy to do. So there's just one transition. It's next to Athlete Village. So yeah, logistically, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? Growing up, I think Waco had a kind of obviously an odd reputation back in the day. And then, when I was doing that street art film, that Saving Banksy business, the guys in the film I think they were trying to tell me that Waco was kind of becoming a little bit of an art center. And sounds like that town is kind of, really getting a little more, I don't know, hip to the, cool stuff or whatever. I don't know. And there's also supposedly right outside of there kind of this weird little art town. Have you ever heard of this? I can't remember the name of it, where it's kind of an escape where like actors and everybody goes and they, do their art, whatever. But that's irrelevant. But I just
now I'll have to look it up. I'm not familiar with it, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, like yeah, it's like a kind of this small place where a lot of people get away, but I think famous people go there, and there's like it's real artsy. But yeah, so that's cool. And then you stayed on there?
I stayed there, yeah. So there's always a couple host hotels, right, for every race, but there's lots of hotel options. So I actually just choose the one that's within a couple miles, and so I'll drive. It's not a big deal the morning of the race to leave your hotel and drive because there's lots of parking. So yeah, I'll stay there. I'll drive up over on Saturday, check in, drop my bike, stay overnight, and then race on Sunday. But before that, I did share some text with the race director. So I think this is her 3rd year being the race director for Waco. So Waco's first year was 2018. And we had a COVID year where there was no race. So I think this is her 3rd year. And she wanted me to mention, and I wanted to mention, Friday evening, if you're there, if you're, checking in on Friday, or you just roll into town Friday evening, there's a Women for Try shakeout run. And so that's at 5:00 on Friday. And so they'll roll out of the Waco Running Company, which is a little running store, again, within walking distance of Athlete Village. So if you happen to be in town early, want to meet up with some people, run, there'll be I think she said like a reception afterward. Let's see what she said. Yeah, there'll be a reception afterward. And so just to meet up with some people and, you know, enjoy the long weekend that's going on as well.
That sounds cool. Yeah, I just looked it up. That town is called Marfa. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Marfa. Yeah.
Okay. That's what was on my mind. Okay.
That's
so,
cool.
all right. Little shakeout run on the Friday.
Yep.
And then you get ready. So you've already, I guess you take your bags in the morning, right? Or your gear, I should say.
Yeah. So Saturday, check in, grab all the stuff they give you, go grab your bike, drop off your bike, and then take all your stuff to the hotel and, you know, get your bags and everything together for race morning. So it's pretty simple, pretty easy.
It's point-to-point swim, right? So you walk up there in the morning. Is that how it goes?
Yeah. So race morning, just some like, I'll share some of like Nicolle's, you know, hacks for this race. So transition is grass. And last year, I've done the race before in previous years where there's like some burrs or something in transition. And so people will just like pick up their bike and like set it down so you don't get a slow flat, which one year I got a slow flat. The race director's so great. Last year I showed up to transition. I've never seen a better groomed transition. There was mats, everything. It was mowed, like it was so nice. So yeah, Saturday morning, you know, you bring your bottles, you set up your bike. The most important thing is because it's a point-to-point swim, you're going to walk a mile to swim start. So after you're done setting up your bike, this is my hack. There are porta-johns in transition. I would use the porta-john in transition. Have your wetsuit with you. Don't put on your wetsuit because you have a 1 mile walk. So you will see people walking, right, 1 mile in their wetsuit and like, you know, they're chafing. Don't do that. So use the bathroom, carry your wetsuit, have flip-flops or throwaway shoes, do the walk to swim start. There's usually like a shoe drop off or shoe donation area. There's tons of porta pots there. The race director actually added more last year because, you know, as athletes, like you can never have enough porta pots. So people will be lined up there, but you can also get to swim start, you know, as early as you want and just hang out and chill, right? And then seed yourself. It's like most races where you'll seed yourself by estimated time. So yeah, you line up and then, you know, go when the beep tells you to go.
And there you have it, the porta pot hacks from.
I'm here with the hard hitting hacks. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, and of course, we just looked at the website and they said average temp is 65. So it'll probably be like what, 35 in the morning? Like,
it's gonna be. I would guess the low or the starting temp that morning is gonna be like 70. It's been so hot here, and we were talking earlier. The race is usually like mid-October. It's a little bit earlier this year, and so for this part of Texas, it's usually pretty hot the first couple of weeks of October. So I would guess that morning it's going to be 70, and I would just plan for the high that day of being 90. And if we get anything better, like lovely. But I would rather, as somebody who's doing the race, set my expectation that it's going to be sticky and hot. And then if it's not, I'll be so thrilled. But no, it's definitely not going to be an average temperature of 65. Now, the caveat, I did do it one year. I think it was either 2019 or 21. No, I think it was 2019. That was the year that it was super cold and air temp was 45 and like water temp was like 63. So there was one outlier year. I just don't think this year is that year. So I would just plan on hot weather.
Well, yeah, that's a good way to plan for it. You're not feeling the cold snap, huh?
No, not yet.
It's kind of hard, I suppose, when it's so hot down there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you get in this swim is point to point. How much faster do you think, we can expect our swims to be in this thing?
Yeah, so I mean, you're not swimming upriver, but I would not say it's a fast current at all. So it's not, you know, some races are kind of known for like the current that's going to carry you. It's not that kind of swim. However, there is a little bit of help, and my swim PR does happen to be at Waco. So,
Right.
you know, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes quicker than like my average swim. So yeah, and again, I think part of that is for most athletes or like, you know, adult onset swimmers like myself, anything that's point to point is just easier to navigate, right? So the less turns, the less slowing down, you also are, you know, potential for a quicker swim. So it is a really straightforward swim, pun intended. You just swim straight and you go have 2 red turn buoys and then it's over.
Mm-hmm. Now on the map, it kind of looks like you swim up a little bit to start, but is that true?
You can see it. So like the beep goes off, you go down the stairs and there's just a red turn buoy, you know, like 50 feet in front of you. You just have to go around that red turn buoy. And then the same for when you come out, there's a red turn buoy. You've got to go around it, you know, don't cut the corner, but you got to go around it. And then you hit the stairs and then head out to transition.
So there's no danger of missing that last turn with the current, because sometimes that can be an issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I've never had an issue. It's no.
Now, is that cool. What is that, like a little canal or something? It looks like, or what is it?
The river?
It's a river. Okay.
I think it's the Brazos.
Okay.
Yeah. Gosh, whoever's a real Texan that hears this is going to be like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm almost positive it's the Brazos. Yeah, it's a real river.
Is it real? Is it kind of wide so you can get your room if you're not comfortable?
Yeah, good question. It's wide enough, but it's not overly wide. So you know, there's enough room. There's in every swim, I think there's parts of it where it feels like a washing machine, right? And so this is not any different. Like the first few 100 yards, you feel like, you know, there's too many people. But for the most part, it's wide enough that you should be able to find a line and just head straight.
Okay. All right. So you're getting out right at transition. And is it a long transition or a long run, or how's that working?
Yeah. So I would call it longer than average, but not crazy long. So my transition times are always a little bit longer. So you come out of swim, you go up like a concrete incline, and there's lots of people, which is really fun. And then you cross over, there'll be a mat, and you cross over the mat to cross over the street. And then you run a little bit to get to the entrance of transition. And then once, you know, do your transition stuff. And then the out of transition is like the back corner. So it is a longer than average transition, I would say, for a 70.3. So you should be mindful of that. Like if you're especially, you know, on TriCalc, like it's not, I don't think it's a 2-minute transition. It's like a 4-minute transition. But if you dork around, like last year, it was very windy. It was very windy and I didn't want to be cold on the bike. So I purposely dorked around to put some sleeves on and like a wind vest. And my transition was like 7 minutes. And so, you know, but had I not done that, it's, you know, more like a 4.5-minute transition, at least for me.
I thought you just said it's going to be 90 degrees. Why are you wearing sleeves and a vest?
Well, it was windy and I was wet and I didn't want to be cold. And so last year it was really, really windy. Yeah, but the run is hot. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say it's like a nice weather, because when you get to the run, it's like full sun and like high 80s and you're, you know, dying.
Oh, yeah. No joke. I forgot to mention that it's a Texas-sized kickoff as Sheriff Parnell McNamara fires his shotgun to launch the swim. That's exciting.
The tracks, yeah. I think a shotgun, a cannon, like all those things are very Texas, the start of Texas races.
Yeah, I love it, man. Big time Texas. All right, so you're on that bike course, and
yeah.
You said
so the bike course
looks pretty Well, there's some turns, definitely.
So this is like an exclusive update. One thing that the RD shared is the bike course. So first of all, if you didn't do the race last year, then you haven't been on the new bike course. So new bike course last year. And then this year, the bike course map is not updated yet. So the difference, she said, is if you're looking at the course, instead of heading out on 12th Avenue, we're actually going to head out on 3rd. So as someone who's riding their bike, it's not really going to feel very differently. You're just going to turn earlier. And then 3rd is the road that we come back on. So it's going to feel very familiar. But if you're looking at the map and if you're someone who's loading it into your bike computer, or you're mentally thinking, okay, LaSalle to 12th, you're going to actually take LaSalle to 3rd. And then at some point, I think we'll probably jump back on 12th once we get out of like kind of downtown of Waco. There's just construction going on downtown. So once you ride your bike out of downtown, you end up on backcountry roads. And so I think once we kind of get out of that downtown, she'll probably shoot us back on 12th. And then we take that really until the biggest, I think, heads up for the bike course is we take a sharp left on Hobbs. And it's a very sharp left. It's like, you know, smaller than a 90 degree turn. And so if you don't know that, or if you don't drive the course ahead of time, you don't know how sharp it is. So some people, I think last year, were surprised, but you just need to know it's a very sharp turn and you need to slow down. I mean, just you slow down, don't take the turns like you're winning the race on that turn, right? So yeah. That's really kind of the biggest, you know, be mindful. And then after that, you take, again, you've got a few 90 degree turns. And again, it's, if you ride your bike on, chip and seal country roads, you know that when you take a 90 degree turn, sometimes there's rocks or just debris on the road. You know, slow down, be smart, don't wreck your bike, don't wreck your neighbor, that sort of thing. And then you'll finally end up on the highway. I think it's 77 is what it's called. And so you do about 20, I think, miles. You get out there on like mile 16 and you take it to about mile 30 and then you turn around. It's like 14 plus 10, like 24 miles, I think you're out on the highway. And the biggest piece of that is there are cones. The highway is very smooth. They've done construction on the highway. So it's, you know, there's not much to be wary of in terms of debris. But the two biggest hills are right before the turnaround. And then obviously now you're turning around and you've got to go do that hill again. So I think that's just something to be mindful of, is like there are two pretty big incline hills and you kind of do them back to back. And depending on how the wind is that day, like how strong it is and where it's coming from, last year, that was the hard part, was the turnaround, is now I've got to do this hill again and I'm just getting like slammed with wind, right? And so, yeah, it's just, again, people ask about this bike course. I like to call it fair. It's not flat and it's not St. George, but it's very fair. You know, there's turns, there's wind, there's some rollers, there's a couple hills. I think it's really fun. It's pretty. Yeah, I don't think anybody has like a huge advantage on it.
Okay. So does this course go anywhere near the Waco compound from back in the day? Do you know?
I don't think so, but the only reason I don't think so is because I remember my parents telling me they went and like drove around. I don't know exactly where it is. I don't think it's near there.
Okay.
I think it's farther out.
All right.
We definitely didn't see it from the bike, if that's what you're wondering. I wasn't like, hey, there's a Waco compound.
I know. I just couldn't resist. That was stupid. I mean, I remember going down there once and I actually pulled off in Waco. I'm like, I'm going to go look. And I'm going to think, what am I doing? Who cares? I mean, like, People are weird, including me, but it's like, so you said wind slams you. Does it get windy out there? Like,
Yeah, it's Texas. Yeah. So it's so you could have like, I would say an average, I've been out riding my bike outside, and I would say average wind right now would be like gusts are maybe like 13 or 15 miles per hour, and like sustained or like 7 or 8 miles per hour. That's pretty average right now. Last year in particular, I think I saw like gusts were like 25 miles an hour, and sustained were, whatever, 10 or 15. Like it was a very windy day. So we could easily have a very windy day. So you just have to make sure that you've ridden outside and you know how to handle your bike. And I think there were some people, just by the nature of where they were on the course last year, when, a big gust came, or if someone was trying to pass them and a big gust came, right? I think there were some wrecks last year, unfortunately, just with bad luck. So yeah, it's just something to definitely be mindful of.
Yeah, man. Is there any risk of tumbleweeds in the spokes or these types of things?
You might see tumbleweeds. But I don't think in your spokes. I definitely saw tumbleweeds when we had Ironman 70.3 Lubbock. That was more of a tumbleweed race.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Fun, but yeah, I guess there is, all right. So anything else on the bike course? I think
I think the only other tidbit I would throw out is when I drove the course last year, I was so impressed there were race volunteers with leaf blowers blowing the core, like blowing junk off the side of the road, like making it as clean as. I was like, this is next level, just spots where there might be debris. Like they were out, I saw them with leaf blowers. So it's like, everybody should be aware you're on backcountry roads, be a smart cyclist, but also like, know that they go to a lot of effort to keep people from, having a unforeseen bike crash. So yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. And then you just come back into town after the bike course.
All right. So hammer the bike.
Go hard on the bike.
I mean, it sounds like, of course, it sounds like it could be fairly fast course. I mean, it's fair, but it seems like it's pretty straight, and
yeah,
those hills don't seem insurmountable by any means. So
yeah, I think that's right. I don't think it's a PR course. But I think it's a very fair, fun course that you can have a good time on, for sure. A good race time.
Okay. And a good time. How's that?
And a good time and a good race time.
All right. So you come back in and pulling in.
Yep, I'm looking at all my notes. Okay, yep. So no, yeah, you come back into transition. It's one transition, drop off your bike, nothing special, and then go out on the run. And then, if you look at the run course, I mean, I think in general, right, like we just tell everybody, like you should know the run course. But if you look at it, especially at the beginning, there's lots of turns. Mm-hmm. It's really well marked. And so the run course was new in 2022. So if you have not done the race in 2022 or 2023, this is a different run course. So the old run course was 2 loops. The current new run course is 1 loop. And so one thing that athletes did not like about the old run course is 2 loops through Cameron Park, which is just very, very hilly and soul crushing. And so the race director just made it one loop. So you only go through Cameron Park and have your soul crushed one time, which is lovely. And then, yeah, again, like I tell everybody, like, know where the aid stations are, know it's at the aid stations, but for the most part, it's 1 loop and it's really, really well marked. There's lots of arrows, there's lots of race volunteers. So if you look at it and you're like, I don't know where, I'm turning, I wouldn't worry about it. Know the course, but there'll be lots of help and markings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just took kind of a glance back at some of the top finishers. It looks like it's not a super fast course. I mean, even the top athletes were swimming around 30 minutes. So it's not like a super fast swim. And I mean, the bike some of them were up there, but not like 28 miles an hour or anything crazy like that. So it's
not like Galveston, right? Like we have Texas 70.3 in April, where like you can get some crazy, it's just out and back and flat and you get wind, like you can get some really top speeds. Yeah, this bike course is not like that.
Okay. So the run, they took out or at least one loop, or wait, is it 2 loops?
It's just one loop. And yeah, so you just go through
one loop too, right?
What's that?
The bike course is just kind of one loop too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, same. So yeah, it's one loop.
The beginning of this run, by the way, looks like an Etch-a-Sketch. It looks really confusing. Is it as bad as it looks?
It's not. It's not as bad as it looks. That's why I was saying when you're on course, it's really, really well marked. And the benefit, I think, of one loop is like once you see it, it's gone. You don't have to see it again. Mentally, you're like, okay, I'm done. So yeah, no, it's really well marked, and there's lots of volunteers out. And I was nervous about running it last year, but I didn't have any issues at all. And friends that I knew that had done the course in 2022 said the same. They're like, yeah, it looks like an Etch-a-Sketch, but it's really well marked. You won't have a problem with it. And I would say the biggest, I mean, if you're a football fan or, the last 2 to 3 miles, you get to run around the Baylor football stadium. And so they've got lots of, student volunteers out there and music. And so kind of, the worst part of the race, like the last 2 to 3 miles, it's something fun to look at, and lots of encouragement is out there. So that's nice too.
Yeah, that's really nice. Is it, you said around the stadium or in the stadium, or?
You don't go in, but you go around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. So it looks like it's mainly along water. So
yeah. Which is, it's the river's got, you mostly are on both sides of the water, and then there's a few bridges, like 2 or 3 bridges. So it's fun. It's pretty. It's not boring. You've got something to look at. Lots of support. And then the finish is actually you cross over a suspension bridge, which is kind of their famous finish. And if you look at like their t-shirts, there's usually like the outline of the suspension bridge. So that's kind of something that they're proud of. And then there's it's neat because actually I think I have a video on my Instagram from last year. There's people just lined up on either side of that bridge as you finish. So it makes it a really nice, fun, exciting finish. And then you finish basically where Athlete Village, where check-in was, that's all in the same spot.
Okay. Yeah, it's downhill finish on that bridge, kind of? Or?
No, it's just flat, not downhill.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you finish, and I'm looking at this map. Is the city or downtown more by Baylor, or is it right where
Baylor's on the other side mostly of the river from where we will be.
Okay.
So like the football, basketball stadium, all of that is on the other side of the river. So if you look at the run map, kind of that loop, that's kind of the part you're going around the football stadium. So we mostly do all of our stuff on the other side of the river.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, like you said, it sounds like a really fair course all the way through.
I'm a big fan. Like I said, I did it 2 times and I was like, I'm never going back. This race chews me up and eats me out. And then last year with the changes to the run course and the bike course, and just so many attention to detail on so many things. Like I said, just like extra porta pots and a really clean, neat and tidy transition. Like I was like, this is a really great race. Like I really have been happy with the updates and improvements, and I'm excited to go back. I mean, other than like actually doing the race and how hot I think it's going to be, other than that, I'm excited to go back.
All right. So yeah, when you're done, you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. When it's over.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that sounds pretty good to me.
Awesome.
I feel like I'm race ready if I ever did it.
Yeah. Come down to Texas again.
Yeah, right. That run reminds me, at least on a map, a little bit of what maybe Ironman Texas run is like along the river like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one, they're not dissimilar. This is obviously longer, right? Because it's at Ironman Texas, it's just the waterway, so it's shorter. Whereas the Brazos River is actually, is much longer, but that vibe of like getting to run against the water and people being out and stuff. Yeah, it is a similar vibe.
Mm-hmm. Is there cafes along there or no?
We're sort of like where Ironman Village is. That's really where up and down the river from the village, that's really where all the restaurants and stuff are. Not as much on the other side of the river. That's pretty much, it's just not as many cafes or anything like that. It's more commercial, or you can see some Baylor campus from that side.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure this will help a lot of people, and I wish you the best of luck at your race.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Congrats on your race.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. No vests and arm warmers this year if it's 90, please.
Listen, I'm so dialed in on making those transitions sharper. I'll just suffer because I like look at my times and I'm like, that's ridiculous. I need to cut 2 minutes off that.
No dorking around over there.
No dorking around this year in transition.
Let's get out. You'll be warm in 2 minutes on that bike.
Yeah, you're right.
I know. All right. I really appreciate it, Nicholle. Thank you. And if you have any questions for Nicholle, you can hit her up.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hang on a second.